Welcome, everyone. Kevin Harlan here with Clark Kellogg and Steve Kerr. What a treat we have here. We've dusted off a reel from the past and get to take a look back at some of the great teams of the NBA. Larry Bird's Celtics against Dominique Wilkins' Hawks.
And we are sure to be in for a great show as Larry Bird and Dominique Wilkins have had some great battles on the floor. It's always a fun show when they get together and battle things out at that small forward position.
And it'll be fun to see some of the great stars on the floor joining the great Larry Bird and Dominique Wilkins. Mikal and Parrish joining the side of the Celtics. A lot of talent in that front court of Boston's.
No doubt about it. With all the firepower both these sides have, it's guaranteed to be fun as we get underway. Taking a look now at this Celtics team. It's the all-star front court that is so feared around the NBA with Bird, McHale, and Parrish. In the backcourt, Dennis Johnson running the point. He's flanked by Danny Ainge at the off guard. And on the other side, matching up against Bird at the three is Dominique Wilkins. The Twin Towers underneath are Kevin Willis and Tree Rollins. Doc Rivers and Randy Whitman of the backcourt to round out the starting five.
Bird was so dominant throughout the entire decade of the 80s, it's hard to pick out a best year for him. I mean, sometime in the mid to late 80s, though, was when he was at his best.
Here's Willis. So the whistle blows on the shot and 2 free throws for the contact right there. It goes on Dennis Johnson.
Yeah, don't give up anything for free. I like that. Send him to the line.
Yeah, they don't want to sit back and watch you lay it in. I mean, make him earn it. Make him earn it. Don't give up anything easy.
And he makes the first. Thinking more about his best year for Larry Bird, his stats are probably best in 88, averaging 30 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists a game. But Clark in 86, he led that great team to the finals.
Well, in 86, I mean, that was one of the most dominant teams in NBA history, and Bird's numbers were a little down from where they were in 88. 26 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, but remarkable numbers, and that was Larry Bird at his best, 1986.
Got a piece of it. Out of bounds. And they'll keep possession. Here's Whitman. Shot from free throw range. And that's good for 2.
So many impressive numbers with Larry Bird's career, but I think what stands out to me, 9 consecutive years he made the NBA's all-first team. I mean, that just shows how dominant he was for such a long stretch of time.
Bird, too much for Dominique right there.
And one of the things that made Bird so difficult to cover was the combination of his height and the angle of his shot. He released the ball kind of out and over his head, so very difficult to challenge it.
You know, you're all over it there, Steve. I mean, a big part of why he was such a great shooter was his size and that unique release angle you talked about. It was really hard for smaller players to bother or distract his shot.
Here's Rivers. About 3.5 minutes left here in the opening quarter. Back to Bird's first team nod. Steve, you were just talking about that. Those came against a lot of fantastic forwards in the NBA, including the guy to my side here, Clark Kellogg.
Well, my career was short-lived, but I held my own against those guys when I was out there. And Dominique Wilkins, a contemporary of mine, actually, we were in the same NBA draft in '82. He was one of the outstanding forwards, as was Kevin McHale. Both were out there. A lot of great players, but Bird was simply a cut above them all.
Into Willis. No good. So Boston will take it the other way.
Well, what a balance of front court and back court defense on this Celtics team, and the Hawks really struggling to deal with it.
And here's Atlanta, trailing by 2.
And how about Larry Bird ending his career as part of that 1992 Dream Team playing in Barcelona? What a great way for him to finish his career, playing with guys like Magic Johnson and Patrick Ewing and Michael Jordan. A pretty amazing run.
Now here's Johnson. McHale outside. Shot clock at 6. McHale missing again. Coming back to Bird and that dream team, it was great to see him get a gold medal and go out on top.
Yeah, I agree with you there, guys. I mean, especially since the year before he was so hobbled by injury, Kevin. It was definitely a nice touch to see him go out as a winner representing the United States.
Someone has to be willing to throw themselves in there, contest the layup.
And Bird backs him in. From down in the low post, it goes. Bird's got 8.
Boy, as he hit his groove, that's 4 consecutive makes.
You know, I think my favorite Larry Bird quote comes from Magic Johnson when he said, "Larry, you told me one lie. You said there will be another Larry Bird. Larry, there will never, ever be another Larry Bird." High praise, and he just might be right.
Well, the closest I've ever seen to Larry Bird would be Dirk Nowitzki. He has, that similar shooting stroke, that size, the rebounding ability. Bird was the better passer, but Dirk Nowitzki probably as close to Larry Bird as we're ever going to see in our lifetime.
Here's what Boston's going with right now. Walton's checked in for McHale. And Wedman subbed in for Danny Ainge.
And as great as Bird was in the NBA, some people forget how dominant he was as a collegiate player. Took Indiana State to the NCAA Finals when he went on to win Player of the Year, and that was his senior season.
Parrish with the block. Celtics leading by 3. 13 feet out. Fired short, but gets the kind roll and goes in. Bird's got 13 points. And so here is Atlanta. It's a 5-point game. And back to Larry Bird in college. Just look at the stats in his 3 years at Indiana State. 30 points, 13 rebounds, almost 5 assists a game. Clark, what a complete player.
Oh, big time. I mean, you talk about the fact that he did that in a 40-minute college game when the shot clock hadn't come into existence yet. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Those kind of numbers, off the charts.
And Dominique.
Oh, and the dunk by Wilkins.
And Dominique, just a high flyer. Why would the defense even try to get in his way in that case?
No, you just need to get out of the way. I mean, he threw it down so hard on you. No way you could stop him.
Now, here's Walton. And Bird gets it to go on the assist by Walton. Bird's got 16.
Well, I tell you what, when you get this kind of effort and efficiency from him, they're a really hard team to beat.
Johnson against Rivers. Pass to Whitman. Lets it go. And no good trying to get that one. The basket's coming early and often in the first quarter. It's the Celtics. They lead by 4.
Well, the thing they tried to establish right away was the presence down low. You look at the points in the paint. I think that's been the difference.
Yeah, and I like the fact, Steve, that they're not settling for the outside shots. I mean, go in there and get what you want. Keep attacking the rim.
Don't go away. We'll see you in a moment. Now the second quarter getting ready to start up.
And you see Larry playing against the Hawks here. He had some of the best games of his career against Atlanta. And how about the duel he had with Dominique Wilkins in the playoffs all those years ago?
We've got Wedman. Walton is out there with Kevin McHale. Then there's Seasting, and it's Bird in at the small forward. That's the 5 to begin the second quarter for the Celtics. Now, here is Webb. Livingston. And it's rebounded by Bill Walton.
That's an example there, guys, of contesting the shot and corralling the board. That's really all you can ask of a guy at that end of the floor.
Bird can't hit. Going back to Bird just a second, Steve, against the Hawks. He had that game where he had 60 against them. And then Clark was so dialed in, he was calling shots as he went up the court.
Well, Bird could definitely talk with the best of them. You didn't know he was doing it, but unless you were out there between the lines, he was discreet with it. But he ended up with 60 that night, guys. And for his last shot, he said he hit it from in the trainer's lap. And sure enough, He made a three, got fouled, and fell into the Hawks training. The Hawks bench guys went wild cheering for him on that one. With that one, boy, they got the crowd buzzing there.
A pretty perfect play all around.
What a fantastic dunk to finish it off, too.
Seasting passes to McHale. Goes right up. No luck. So the Hawks will take it the other way.
And you look back at Dominique Wilkins' career, you have to think 1986 was his best season, averaged 30 points a game that year.
To the paint.
That's not what they needed there, that's for sure.
Some changes for Boston. Robert Parrish is checked in for Walton. Ainge comes in for Larry Bird. And Dennis Johnson's subbed in for Wedman. Here's Johnson. Back to Neek's 86 season. Clark, he led the league in scoring that year, and that was the first of his all-star appearances as well.
And how about he also grabbed 8 boards a game that season, guys, and averaged 2 steals a game. So that year was when the league took notice of what Dominique Wilkins could do.
A nice piece of work there. Find a little space and pull the trigger.
Here is Seasting, guarded by Webb.
I really don't like what I'm seeing their last couple of possessions, Kevin. That's 2 turnovers in a row. Careless turnovers at that.
They're getting a little casual with the ball. They've got to nip that in the bud right now.
Johnson dishes to Webb. Passes it to Willis. Johnson against Whitman. Back to Johnson. And it's Johnson picking him up. Clock at 6. All alone. Again, the Hawks good for 2. Here is Seasting.
And you look at this Celtics team, interesting. Kevin McHale and Danny Ainge, both from this Celtics team, went on to be general managers for the Wolves and Celtics, respectively.
Yeah, you know what? There was a little suspicion when McHale sent KG over to the Celtics. People were wondering if the old teammates really still wore Celtic green underneath, but I think McHale is too competitive to let that happen.
And I think whichever team starts to dominate the glass could really take control of this game.
I won't disagree with you. I mean, it's so tight between these teams right now on the board that you're just waiting to see which team might pull away.
And now the first timeout called here for the Hawks.
I think Coach saw a couple of things he wanted to correct. You got to make sure everyone's following the game plan.
Boston making some changes. Walton comes in for McHale, and Larry Bird sub for Seasting. .135 left in the first half of basketball. And they get it back. And Wilkins with the stuff.
Another slam for Dominique, just punishing the rim. Ainge was such a key player for those Celtics teams. Very tough player at both ends of the floor.
Yeah, he was an old school guard, kind of a combo guard, could handle it a little bit and also play off the ball. And you needed a tough guard like him in this era. He was fearless out there and really got under people's skin because he never gave up and played extremely hard.
Here's Rivers. The Celtics with the lead. Bird kicks to Ainge. Oh, and a nice defensive play to interrupt the alley-oop. And there's the pass to Rollins. He passes to Rivers. 6 to shoot. He goes up. Deflected by Johnson. Kevin McHale, he checked in for the Celtics. Vincent comes in for Dennis Johnson. Then for the Hawks, Concax checked in for Rollins. And it's Whitman in for Dominique Wilkins. Here's Ainge. Looking for his first bucket of the game. Shot clock and game clock separated by less than 6 seconds. Leaps for it. No good.
You know, as tight as this game is, you have to like their chances the way they've been rebounding.
They have a pretty good margin in that department, so they've got to continue to hit the boards hard. It'll pay off for them in the end.
1 second left. Gets it to go. Ainge has got his first points of the game.
Boy, he set him up beautifully with that assist. Room service style.
Celtics lead by 3.
Probably more so than any player in NBA history, Larry Bird really connected with the fans in the city of Boston. Just had that way about him. The fans seem to feed off of him and vice versa.
The Hawks trail by 3. And so in the game for the Hawks, we've got Rollins. Dominique Wilkins out there with Kevin Willis. Then it's Whitman. And it's Rivers in at point guard. Rivers with it. He's guarded by Johnson. Knocks it loose.
Boy, DJ is so good at creating havoc and forcing turnovers.
Well, just a tenacious defensive stopper. One of the best defensive guards of all time. And you can see why with steals like that.
Back to Larry Bird, Larry Legend. It wasn't really a surprise to see his number retired immediately upon his retirement.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys, after the season he had in '86, I'm surprised they didn't hang that jersey up the next season. I mean, he was unbelievable in 1986.
He's guarded by Rivers. Johnson against Rivers. McHale passes to Parrish. Down to 5 on the shot clock. The shot's good from Bird.
And that's a couple of threes in a row now for Bird. Not a good sign for the defense.
The Hawks trail by 6.
One of the interesting stories about Larry Bird, he was actually drafted by the Celtics after his junior season. There was a technicality in the rules at that point that allowed Red Auerbach to draft him a year before he came out and turned into one of the best draft picks of all time.
Yeah, you know what, Steve? That rule was that you had a calendar year to sign someone that was drafted, and it worked extremely well for the Celtics and Red Auerbach. They took him early, let him play out his senior year, then had him waiting. I mean, 6 overall for a player you had to wait a year for, that's a pretty good indication of the talent that Bird had.
Rivers kicks to Wilkins. Bird covering. With 1 on the clock. A shot by Wilkins, no good. Celtics leading by 4. And here is McHale. Backing him down is Johnson. Takes it up. Goes up and lays it nice and easy. Johnson's got 4 points now in the quarter.
The late Dennis Johnson, DJ, was a big part of the Celtics team coming together. I mean, he came onto the team and was just the guard they needed, kind of a old-school, do-it-all, two-way guard.
Concac's checked in for Rollins. Here's Willis. He's against McHale. Rivers passes to Willis. Feeds to Wilkins. Shoots over Bird. Another miss by Wilkins. Talking about DJ Dennis Johnson. He won a title with the Seattle Supersonics before he came over to the Celtics. And I remember Larry Bird saying he was the best teammate he ever had.
And he was also Finals MVP in 1979 with Seattle, Kevin. So a clutch performer, first with the Sonics, then with Boston. And yeah, that's high praise coming from Larry Bird. Think of how many great players he played with.
Here's Wilkins following the three-pointer by Boston.
Difficult shot from mid-range, and the defense was all over him.
Boy, I like the close out there, Steve. Well done.
Boy, 3 threes in a row for Larry Bird. That stroke looking so sweet.
1:35 left to play in the third.
Well, Larry Bird was a 3-time MVP, and boy, were all of those MVP seasons something. 84, 85, 86. He was averaging about 27 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists every night, and really driving the big green machine.
Johnson dishes to McHale. He's covered by Willis. And it's good.
McHale is a living, walking, talking encyclopedia of post moves. He's got them all.
Clark, you talked about his MVP seasons. Maybe 87 was his best year. as far as shooting, scoring, and passing.
Yeah, Bird and Magic both had extraordinary seasons in 1987, Kevin. And really, I thought both of them were well-deserving of the MVP award.
Redmond's checked in for Boston. Seaston comes in for Dennis Johnson. Here's Webb. Passes it to Conke. Here's Rivers. Nice pass. Led him to the rack perfectly for the layup. Rivers has got 6 points.
It was great to see Larry Bird when he was healthy. I mean, you forget just how dominant a player he was. It's really a shame that late in his career, back injury slowed him down some.
Bird kicks to McHale. Redmond the pass to Bird. Defended by Wilkins. 6 on the shot clock. Puts it up. Rebound, Atlanta. And Clark, they're going to have to make a pretty big comeback here.
Yeah, I think so, but I don't think the clock is a factor right now, at least not yet. I mean, they don't need to change their pace of play. Keep attacking.
Yeah, I agree. You got to make sure you take your time, but start to be more effective and efficient with each possession, and you got to buckle down defensively. Well, he rotated defensively, but probably just a little bit too late, and good call. He didn't quite get to the spot.
That's always a bang-bang call for the officials. He got that one right.
Here's Bird, and another basket for Boston.
Man, is he hard to defend. You play him one way, he'll just go the other.
Here's Rivers. Well, through 3 quarters of play, down double digits, it may be difficult to overcome. It's been one outstanding game from Larry Bird.
Well, we know he can score, so it's not really a huge shock to see him put up these kind of big numbers.
And I would think that he most likely will...
Look back at that glorious decade of the 80s in the NBA. Bird was just so dominant. He won 3 titles in Boston and, of course, had that magical, so to speak, rivalry with Irvin Magic Johnson with the Lakers. They dominated that decade together.
They've got Seaston. Bird out there with Walton. Then there's Wedman. And it's Ainge in at the 2-guard. That's who's in the game for the Celtics. Webb kicks to Willis. Backing down. Webb the pass to Willis. 5 to shoot. Fires, high post. Nice jump shot. Good. Webb's got the first basket as we get going in the 4th for the Hawks. And Steve, back to what you were saying. Deep down, though, you knew Magic and Bird loved competing against each other. Clark, you were right there on the court many times against those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 2 fantastic players. And to this day, it's still argued over who was better. But they were certainly the best of the best in the 80s. I mean, 8 of the 10 NBA titles went to either Bird's Celtics or Magic's Lakers.
The Hawks trail by 12. Time called here. The Hawks decide to talk it over. And some changes here for the Celtics. Kevin McHale, he checked in for Bird. Johnson comes in for Wedman. And Vincent subbed in for Seaston. Here's Rivers. Wilkins backing him down. Reverses. The shot is off. And the Celtics go with it the other way.
And Walton came to the Celtics late in his career. Still an important role player for Boston.
And really, guys, just a perfect... Good. Wow.
And Neek was such a powerful dunker, a guy who would just fly through the air and attack the rim.
Here's Johnson. Here's Vincent. Back to Johnson. On the wing, Ainge. Whitman defending. Clock at 4. The shot by Ainge, no good. The Hawks trail by 10. Now Willis. And a miss there with a chance to cut the lead to single digits. And here we go. It's tipped. McHale left side. Johnson outside. Willis against Walton. Boston, no good that time either. Out of bounds. They'll keep possession. And some changes here for the Celtics. Robert Parrish is checked in for Walton. Bird comes in for Danny Ainge. And Wedman subbed in for Vincent. Here's Johnson. Wilkins backing him down. The fadeaway. Dominique not giving up an inch to Larry Bird.
I think he's done his part to try to keep him in this game. It's been a solid effort from him, guys.
They can take their time on this possession.
You know, guys, that wouldn't be a bad idea. I mean, gives themselves a little break, too.
Catch their breath. You're right. Stolen by Bird.
That's his first turnover of the game, so for the most part, he's run the offense pretty well.
And that one's good. And the Celtics lead by 10.
He's so graceful around the rim. Sometimes you forget how strong he is.
Atlanta calls timeout. They're losing by 10. A minute 50 left in the fourth quarter. Danny Ainge is checked in for Boston. The Hawks are making a switch on the floor. A minute 50 left to play here in the fourth. Here's Wilkins. And Boston with the rebound. Parrish has got 3 rebounds so far in the game. McHale kicks to Bird. And they call goaltending. They'll give him the bucket.
Bird known for his clutch play, and it's almost the stuff of legends. It actually is. I mean, he was so good down the stretch.
Here's Rivers. From the top of the key, Atlanta again missing. Celtics leading by 12.
Well, getting back to Larry Bird, guys, in crunch time, I mean, it wasn't just his shooting. It was the steals. How about the steal he made against Detroit in the famous Isaiah Thomas game when he stole the inbounds pass and fed Dennis Johnson for that lay? I mean, he did it at both ends of the floor.
Whitman can't make it. Guys, some great passing from him.
Yeah, it makes it tough for the defense to chase that ball around when it moves that crisply all over the court.
Yeah, it sure does, Clark. And look at the assist totals. They're piling up. I mean, this has been a nice game execution-wise for this club.
Here's Rivers. Outside Wilkins. Guarded now by Larry Bird. And so he draws the foul on the shot, a trip to the line to shoot 2.
You know, watching Dominique Wilkins out there, you really can't quite grasp just how strong he is. I mean, he was a brick wall coming at you with the ball and had unbelievable lift.
That free throw good from Wilkins. Back to Dominique Wilkins. That strength of his allowed him to finish so well through contact and then punctuate those dunks.
Yeah, maybe the only guy who I think compares to Dominique in terms of his physical stature would be LeBron James. I mean, just so strong and explosive at the rim, and a guy you definitely didn't want to take a charge from, that's for sure. Well, they've looked good here tonight, and now they are coasting to the finish line.
Steve, just a matter of time right now.
Pass to Whitman. Tries to keep it alive. And the Celtics recover.
Boy, that was a great steal. Prevented what may have been an easy hoop.
And I think that may do it here. They're trying to put the nail in the coffin.
Well, just adding to the lead as we approach the final buzzer.
Here's Rivers. There's 18 seconds left in the fourth. Fires top of the key. And once again off the mark by Atlanta. And here's Bird for three. Off target from downtown. Rivers. And so it's Boston easily grabbing this one.
Fun game to look back on, but in the end, the Celtics just too much for the Hawks.
A lot of great players on this Celtics team, and they can hurt teams in so many ways, just as the Hawks found out.
It's been great checking back and some...